5 seconds to go. Start. That constitution treats the two houses equally, except in certain financial matters which are to be the sole purview of the House of the people. Stop. In regard to what these are, the Speaker is the final authority. Stop. Para. This position is perfectly clear and cannot be and has not been challenged at any stage. Stop. Unfortunately, some words were used by my colleague, the law minister, while speaking in the Council of States on April 29, which led to a misunderstanding. Stop. That misunderstanding could have been easily removed by a direct reference to him. Stop. This was not done and the matter was raised in the House. Stop. Further misunderstandings then arose as between the two houses and questions of privilege were raised, and it was stated that the dignity of this house had been affected. Stop. Para. All of us are jealous of maintaining the dignity and authority of this house and of the speaker who represents this house. Stop. Indeed, all of us are anxious to maintain the dignity and authority of both house, which maintain the dignity and authority of both house which constitute parliament. Stop. My colleague, the law minister, is as anxious as any of us to maintain that dignity and authority, and it has been a matter of the greatest regret to him that any words of his should have led people to believe otherwise, and further led to certain occurrences in both houses which disturbed for a while the cooperative and friendly atmosphere which must of necessity prevail in both houses of parliament. Stop. Owing to some of these occurrences, he was placed in an embarrassing position, where to carry out the directions of one house might appear as if he had ignored the directions of the other. Stop. In the dilemma, he might have produced an impression of not having shown the usual consideration, which is the duty of every member. Stop. But that was far from his intention, and he regrets it and trusts that the House will accept his apology for any mistake which he might have inadvertently committed. Stop. Para. So far as the facts are concerned, they are clear, although unfortunately my colleague, the law minister, was not clear. Stop. Para. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Stop. Mr. Vice Chairman, Sir, I rise to support this bill because this is already an act by the force of the ordinance. Stop. I think this bill was long overdue because the open sky policy was announced by the government in 1990, and it is 4 years since the taxi operators in India operated illegally because the Air Corporations Act was in force. The non-stop clause was there in the statute. Section 18 of the Air Corporations Act does not permit any other operator to operate in our country. It was the monopoly of our national carriers, Air India and Indian Airlines. So, I feel it is a bit late that the government has come with an ordinance which should have been done earlier. The main purpose of this bill was, these two corporations were banned and the two companies were formed under the Companies Act. Instead, these companies were registered a year ago, but they were not put into operation by the sanction of this ordinance issued by the President in January. Sir, we have seen internationally how the megas airlines have captured the skies in different countries. In view of the open sky policy of the government, it is pertinent that we give freedom to these two corporations because till now these two corporations are parasites on the government of India, they cannot have their own funds. They would borrow funds even from the government of India. The government of India has to stand as a surety internationally. Now these companies are coming into existence, these companies will have freedom. They will not rely on the government for financial resources. They can go out into open market, in the capital market and mop up resources. At the same time, it is said that the government has privatized them. It is not so. It is very clear in clause 9 that the control of these companies will remain with the government and the government will have freedom to give directions to these companies. Sir, we had also seen that last year, the Indian Airlines made a loss of rupees 100 crores. A poor country like India cannot allow mismanagement of a government company, a public sector company, and I think, it is one step made in the right direction for Indian Airlines and Air India to come out of the red so that they can rely on the public money. There are many in this country who are talking about reviewing our foreign policy option and telling us that non-alignment perhaps will not hold us in good stead anymore, that we are being isolated and we are being cornered in a so-called single polar world. Sir, I must say that the recent election bid which we made for a non-permanent seat of the Security Council showed that we have lost our standing somewhere. Note that everybody expected us to walk in the first round, but we are told, and I believe it, and I have been reading about it, that the Mandarins in South Block had assured that there was no question of a victory in the first round for the Japanese, that we would automatically go into the second round and that would be the stage at which we should negotiate. Sir, we know what happened. It was not a defeat. It was a humiliating defeat. I would like to say that, and replies have come very often that we started it. We divided to bid in 1994, you pressurized us, and so on and so forth. Sir, I would like to say that a government at a particular time may have a particular perception. We did believe, at that, time, given the circumstances, that we stood a good chance, but I would like to ask what your assessment was, what your feedback was. We had been told that 138 countries were visited by high-powered, specially selected delegations of this government, and when I, in another forum, questioned who led these delegations, who were the people who went, what their feedback was, the people, not the foreign affairs minister, in the foreign affairs ministry had to admit that They were all led by bureaucrats, former bureaucrats, retired bureaucrats, extension bureaucrats, semicolon, call them what you want. Stop. You don't have the foresight to realize that if you are talking about winning over opinion in any country, you need political leadership, not bureaucratic meddling. Stop. Is this country so devoid of political leadership today? Sign of interrogation. You have a consensus on foreign policy, you have all parties supporting you on these issues, why do you believe that only bureaucrats can deliver the goods? Sign of interrogation. And sir, this is my first complaint. Stop. In South Block once you, I am not only talking of this government, but I am also talking about the national interest and the long term policy perspectives have lost the political leadership, as far as the Foreign Affairs Ministry is concerned. Stop.